Hey guys, my name is Rajan and you're watching Lens4. So I'm recording this video on the S26 Ultra and the Vivo X300 Ultra selfie camera. So you can check the dynamic range and the audio quality as well. I'm recording this video from their mics and I've got sun behind my back directly, so you can check the selfie camera dynamic range, how they handle the exposure as well, and which camera is overall looking better here. And I'm gonna turn here and you can look at the colors here now, and let me know which selfie camera you prefer here, and which audio quality you prefer as well. If you look at the viewfinder, the Vivo is noticeably brighter than the Samsung, especially outdoors. This makes framing shots much easier in sunlight. It's honestly one of the brightest smartphone viewfinder I've tested this year.
Alright guys, so let's compare the 24mm shots here. So since the Vivo doesn't have a native 24mm focal length, it's digitally cropping in from its ultra-wide sensor, even though the results are surprisingly impressive. The Vivo color looks more natural and true to life thanks to its refined filter, while the S26 Ultra shows a noticeable pinkish tint across the image. When zooming in, I would say the Samsung shot is slightly sharper because it's using its main camera, but Vivo holds up remarkably well despite relying on a cropped ultra-wide image. Hardware wise, obviously the Vivo is using its ultra-wide which is larger and more capable sensor than what most phone offers these days, which explains its strong performance. And overall, in my opinion, Samsung wins on sharpness, but Vivo delivers the more natural and camera-like image. Let's move on to the next shot now. So now let's compare the primary cameras. The Vivo is using its native 35mm focal length, and difference is immediately noticeable. It's using a massive around 1-inch Sony sensor. The background looks far more natural and creamy, giving the image a true camera-like feel. Samsung, on the other hand, is not using a good camera sensor, so it cannot match the level of subject suppression. The colors on the Vivo also looks more realistic, while the S26 Ultra introduces a slight pinkish tint to the skin tones. Zooming in, the Vivo retains better details in the eyelashes, eyebrows, and hair texture, where Samsung processing tends to soften some details while over sharpening others. So for me, the Vivo is delivering a much more natural and premium looking output straight out of the camera. Let's check out the next shot. Alright, now moving to its ultra-wide cameras, this is where the hardware advantage of the Vivo Ultra really starts to show. The Vivo uses the Litia 818 sensor, while the Samsung is using on Chain 350 megapixel sensor, which was used as a selfie camera on the X300 Pro. So on paper, the LYT 818 is more capable and premium sensor. And looking at the images, Samsung does a decent job with detail, but the color processing feels a bit off to my eyes. The Vivo delivers more natural cameras and noticeably better texture reproduction. Even if you zoom in, the details, the zoom, trees, everything looks much better here. And considering the significant hardware advantage, the results isn't really surprising. The Vivo clearly takes this round. And let's check in more ultra wide shots. Alright, so here's another ultra wide comparison, and this time with the sun behind me. The Vivo is using again refined mode, which is designed to mimic the look of a professional camera rather than maximizing the HDR. And because of that, the sky isn't artificially brightened, giving the image a more natural and realistic appearance. If you switch to the Zeiss natural or vivid mode, you would recover more sky detail and colors. Samsung, on the other hand, applies much heavier processing. When zooming in, I would say the Vivo and the LYT 818 sensor retains better detail and texture, while the S26 Ultra tends to look over sharpened and slightly pixelated in comparison. For me, the Vivo delivers a more authentic and cleaner ultra wide shot here. Let me know which one you prefer. Let's check out next shot. So now zooming in further to 170mm, the differences become even more obvious. Samsung delivers good detailed shot, but the Vivo looks much closer to a professional camera. The background separation is excellent with a much creamier and more natural bokeh effect. Colors look richer, textures are better preserved, and there is very little smoothing compared to previous Vivo devices. So if you zoom into the face, hair and clothing, the Vivo retains more natural detail, while Samsung image starts looking a bit more processed. So this is largely due to its superior 200 megapixel HP9 periscope sensor, which is one of the largest telephoto sensors available in a smartphone right now. So let me know which picture you prefer here, but I clearly prefer the Vivo shot here. So let's check out next shot. Alright, now zooming in even further, one thing stands out on the Vivo. Despite its excellent hardware, Vivo is still applying quite a lot of a bit of AI enhancement at higher zoom levels, especially on hair and fine textures. You can see the AI trying to reconstruct those detail, which sometimes make the image look less natural. I've noticed this similar processing on previous Vivo flagship as well. Samsung, on the other hand, delivers a cleaner and less processed result in this particular shot. If you look closely at the hair and facial details, Samsung is actually doing a more realistic output here. So where Vivo starts to using its artificial aggressive sharpening. Considering Vivo's superior telephoto hardware, I would have preferred a more natural approach this comparison. I think Samsung produces the better looking image here. So yeah, let's check out next shot. Now moving to the selfies, this is one area where Samsung surprisingly takes the lead. Even though the Vivo is using more advanced Gen 5 selfie sensor, its results have been a bit inconsistent in my testing. Sometimes the refined mode delivers great looking selfies, but other times the colors and contrast can look a little inaccurate. The Samsung, on the other hand, produces a more consistent image with better detail and skin tone. So let me know which selfie camera you prefer. In my opinion, the Samsung is providing a much better selfie, and also in the video department, the Samsung is producing much better result. So let's check out next shot. Alright, now moving to the 1x portraits, and we are essentially comparing Vivo's native 35mm against standard 24mm portrait. So honestly, Samsung does a great job here. The colors look pleasing, accurate and well balanced. Vivo appears slightly brighter at first glance, but that's because it's aiming for a more professional camera like rendering, rather than aggressive smartphone processing. The colors feel more natural and overall image has a more authentic look. When zooming in, both phones have excellent detail, but the Vivo's almost one in sensor retains a slightly more texture in areas like the leaves. If you look at the here, Samsung hold its ground surprisingly well in this comparison. So this is a much closer battle, but I would say I'll still give a slight edge to the Vivo. It's more natural color signs and extra detail. So let's move on. So now moving to the 50mm, and once again the Vivo has this advantage. The colors look more natural while Samsung continues to add a slight pinkish tint that doesn't feel entirely accurate. Vivo also does a better job with edge detection and background separation. The bokeh looks smoother and more realistic, giving the image a more premium camera-like appearance. The Vivo shot feels cleaner as well, more natural and more refined. So for me, the Vivo clearly takes this round quite comfortably. Let me know which one you prefer. Alright, so now looking at the 85mm portrait, the difference is immediately noticeable. The Vivo delivers a much more creamier and more natural background blur. Even with Samsung portrait blur set to the maximum, it still can't quite match the depth and separation that Vivo is achieving here. The Vivo shot here also has richer colors, better facial details and a cleaner overall look. If you zoom in, the Samsung start to show a bit more noise processing, while Vivo maintains a better texture and detail retention. So looking at this shot and the 85mm sample, that the trend remains the same. The Vivo is consistently producing a more professional looking portrait with superior bokeh, better detail. So let's check out next shot. Portrait, and honestly the difference is quite significant. The Vivo is using its 200 megapixel sensor to create a much more cinematic look with stronger subject separation and creamy natural background blur that Samsung I think simply can't replicate. Samsung colors look good, but when you zoom in, the Vivo pulls ahead with noticeably better detail and texture. There is some AI processing and smoothing going on, especially in hair, but overall the skin tones look much more natural and realistic. The Samsung will still carries that pinkish tint, which makes the image a little feel less authentic. So at 135mm, the Vivo delivers a far more professional looking portrait. Let me know which one you prefer. Alright guys, so this is a quick 200 megapixel comparison between the Vivo and the Samsung. Starting with the file size, the Samsung image on the left comes in at around 21.5 MB, while the Vivo is significantly larger at 36.6 MB. Resolution is very similar on both. The Vivo having a slight edge, I would say, because it's at 18084, while the Samsung it's at 16320. So looking at the colors here, I would say Samsung produces a more saturated image while the Vivo is using its refined mode, resulting in a more natural look. Now let's zoom in, and this is where the differences become clear. The Vivo, in my opinion, captures a little clearer shot. If I zoom in this much, let me just quickly zoom in, and you can look at the differences here. And Vivo clearly is capturing a little, cleaner shot here. There is slight noise here if you look at the hair here, and The Samsung image shows a bit of over sharpening as well, and it's some visible noise, where the Vivo looks cleaner and more detailed overall. Both camera perform well, but in this particular shot I would give the edge to the Vivo X300 Ultra for its better detail retention and cleaner processing, especially at the hair here. If I zoom in this much, you can clearly see how detailed the shot is. So yeah. Alright, now moving to the nighttime comparison, difference is immediately noticeable. The Vivo 1-inch, almost 1-inch Sony sensor, really start to flex its hardware advantage in low light. If you zoom in, the Vivo captures significantly more detail, especially in areas like beard, facial textures and clothing. The image looks cleaner, sharper and more natural. Samsung on the other hand struggles a bit here. Like the S26 Ultra introduces more visible noise and fine details start to break down, making the image look softer and less defined. And low light photography is where the sensor size matter the most, and the Vivo large sensor is clearly helping it here. In this shot, the Vivo comfortably ahead, and let's check out more night samples now. Alright, now here is another selfie, and it's night, and once again Samsung comes out ahead for me. The Vivo adds a noticeable blue tint in the sky and the background, which doesn't look particularly accurate in the scene. When we zoom in, Samsung captures better facial detail and a more natural texture overall. Vivo meanwhile appears to be relying on aggressive AI enhancement. You can see it in the eyebrows, eyelashes and hair, where detail looks artificially sharpened and slightly overprocessed. Samsung selfie looks cleaner, more realistic and more consistent, especially in low light. So despite Vivo having stronger hardware, on paper it's using aggressive AI software enhancement and all those things and making it look worse. So obviously the Samsung is better for selfies. Now moving to the ultra wide night shots, and the Vivo once again shows the advantage of its superior hardware. Its larger Sony LYT818 sensor captured noticeably more detail and keeps noise much better under control. When you zoom in, the differences becomes quite clear. The leaves, the bushes and other fine detail looks much more sharper and more detailed on the Vivo, while Samsung image appears noisier and loses some of those details, especially on the face here. Even the ground and the darker areas of the scene looks cleaner on the Vivo. So obviously the larger sensor of the Vivo is capturing in more light, that's why it's giving us much more detailed shot. So for ultra wide photography, the Vivo is comfortably the best here. Alright, now moving to the 50mm portrait, Samsung is clearly trying to brighten the scene here, which makes the image look more appealing at first. However, once you zoom in, the drawbacks become obvious. There's more visible noise and fine detail, starts to fall apart. The Vivo delivers a cleaner and more realistic image. The colors look more natural. The edge detection is more accurate, and the overall, portrait has a more premium look. So there are some minor focusing issues in the sample, but even with that, the Vivo produces a stronger result. So thanks to its larger sensors and more camera focused approach, the Vivo preserves more detail. So let me know which picture you prefer here. Let's check out next shot. Moving to 85mm portrait, and once again the Vivo pulls ahead. The background blur looks more natural and cinematic, creating much more stronger portrait effect than Samsung. Color reproduction is also more accurate. For example, the black t-shirt is rendered much closer to reality, while Samsung's it's altering the tone slightly. The Vivo image look a bit softer at first glance, but that's largely because it's aiming to more like a DSLR like output, and it's not relying on aggressive sharpening like Samsung. And overall the combination of natural colors and superior background blur looks much better on the Vivo. Let's check out next shot.
Hey guys, my name is Rajan and you're watching Lens Wars. So today I'm recording this video on the Samsung S26 Ultra and the Vivo X300 Ultra. So you can look the dynamic range and the audio quality as well. I'm recording this audio from both of their phones, so you can look at the sun behind my back and let me know which colors you prefer and which audio quality you prefer as well, and which phone can handle the exposure on my face as well. So I'm gonna switch it to 1x now, and let me know which primary sensor is performing better. So I'm gonna go a little back because the 1x is 35mm on the Vivo. So let me know now which color you prefer here. Do you like the 24mm of the S26 Ultra or the 35mm? Subscribe to the channel and do comment your opinion. Alright guys, so now let's look at the video performance. These clips were shot around sunset in a challenging low light environment. Samsung performs quite well in good daylight, but as the light drops, the gap becomes more noticeable. The S26 Ultra struggles to maintain the same level of detail, dynamic range, and overall image quality. In my opinion, Samsung still needs improvement in both sensor hardware and image processing, especially for low light photography and videography. If we compare it with competitors like the iPhone, or like, there's a still noticeable difference in video quality, particularly difficult lighting conditions. Low light footage is an area where Samsung continues to lag behind. On the Vivo side, you also get a film style filter that can produce a more cinematic look straight out of the camera, which many users will appreciate. So coming to the conclusion, I think the Vivo X300 Ultra is clearly the stronger camera phone overall. Samsung still offers a fantastic smartphone with excellent performance and software. But if camera quality is your top priority, Vivo is simply ahead right now. What's impressive is that Vivo isn't sacrificing performance either. The overall speed and responsiveness are on par with Samsung. Even the display this year is surprisingly better than the Samsung. So this one area where Samsung still holds an advantage is selfies. I would say skin tones and front camera still results are generally more consistent on the S26 Ultra. But apart from that, Vivo takes the lead in most camera categories. So let me know which camera you prefer here, and do subscribe and do support the channel.